Hi everyone, this is Jay Beeks, your instructor for Sustainable Leadership 2 EMS 510. It's good to be back after a long and fairly productive summer. I hope all of you had a great summer time off. For those of you that were taking classes in the summer, I hope they went well for you. I hope you got a nice, well-deserved rest and that you're all ready for the courses for the remainder of this semester or the next semester. So as you probably know by now, our main reading resources for this course are still an introduction to leadership by Weiss, once again, and then our new book is The Fifth Discipline by Peter Singh. A little bit about myself in case you haven't met me before. My background has been primarily in engineering and science as a manager, working for consulting firms, 2 large electric utilities, and I've also worked for the state of Oregon as an engineering manager for 9 years. My education includes a Green MBA from Marylhurst University. I also have an MS in civil engineering, an MS in environmental science, and a BS in mechanical engineering, and then finally I have a PhD in the social sciences with an emphasis on sustainability and leadership. That's from the California Institute of Integral Studies. So in total, I have about 20 years of leadership experience as both a first and second line supervisor, with groups ranging from as few as just about 7 to groups ranging from between 20 and 30 individuals. I now primarily teach online graduate level courses in sustainability and leadership, as well as continuing my research, working on a couple papers right now. I'm trying to work on my second book, so I'm hoping that'll be done. It's about 5 chapters. I've got about 5 chapters to go. So first of all, I'll be trying to talk to each of you by phone in the second week of this course. I probably won't get a hold of you this week, but I'll send out an announcement. I'll ask all of you to give me your phone number, and then I'll try to get a hold of you the second week, or of course you can call me as well with the contact information. This gives me a chance to hear a little bit about you, get some more background, find out how you're doing, kind of how the summer went, how the reading's going, maybe some progress on some of your self-assessments. And just to touch base, I think it's helpful for both of us if we can touch base. I was able to contact most of you last semester in that course. So in this course, we're going to be focusing on understanding others more so than understanding ourselves. So we're transitioning from the Knowing Thyself course in Leadership 1. We're going to be focusing on creating a leadership organization, applying systems thinking, which is going to be very critical for all of you, identifying critical thinking, demonstrating decision making and influence, as well as learning the importance of customer engagement, as well as conflict resolution. Conflict resolution is one of my favorite subjects. Having been a supervisor for over 20 years, I've had my share of conflicts to resolve. And then leading teams with an outward focus. So leadership achieves change through establishing direction, aligning people, and motivating and inspiring people through the work environment. We're going to be talking about 10 guiding principles in this area regarding leadership. And I think there's some great information in this course that is going to be extremely helpful for all of you going forward. One of the things that I really appreciated in Unit 5 was Glassel's 9 stages of conflict escalation. And having been involved in a couple of conflicts throughout my career, I found this to be particularly useful. I went ahead and printed out that sheet, and I don't know if you can see it, but if you go to Unit 5, you'll see it in the lecture. But it just shows you how a conflict can increase and escalate with time, and so the key is to try and nip any conflict in the bud early in the stage. And I can tell you from my own personal experience that when people start complaining in this stage, it's easy to not know what's going on or not realize that individuals are unhappy. They start to progressively move into this stage, and let's see what that's called again. Competitive action taken. The debate begins around this stage, but as things start to get progressively worse, your life as a supervisor also gets progressively worse. And so the advice here is to tackle this problem, whatever it is, identify it early, and try to tackle it right around this stage before things start getting worse, before people start sort of organizing themselves around some theme that may or may not be a reality, but it's just best for you, the supervisor, and it's certainly better for the organization if you can tackle these things early on. So I thought that was a great draft. I wish I'd had that 10 years ago when I had a conflict. Just as an example, that conflict I had was one of my individuals was working on a contract down in Southern Oregon, and he entered into a handshake agreement with a contractor, and they literally just kind of shook hands and said, okay, now if you take out this area of trees, then you give me a deal on taking out those trees. If you could do it for, say, $5,000, then you can have the value of the trees. And in Oregon, trees can be extremely valuable. They can be upwards of $1,000, even $2,000 or $3,000 per tree. And in this case, the contractor thought, well, the more trees, the better. And so the contractor went out there and cut through a pretty wide swath, pretty much a landing strip, because my engineer wasn't real clear about how many trees to cut out or what the parameters were. So the contractor just cut out hundreds and hundreds of trees, and caused a lot of conflict with my organization, and we ended up on the front page of the local paper down in Eugene. It looked horrible having all those trees cut out there. A lot of them were old growth trees. It was very harmful to the agency. So I had to put this individual on administrative leave. And I thought, okay, well, that's fine. I put him on administrative leave, everything's going to be fine. Well, as it turned out, that created the early stages of a conflict. And I would say we moved from a debate and onto character assassination, and then threats being established, and finally moving into a completely destructive environment. So I should have nipped that in the bud early after I put the individual on administrative leave, and I should have gotten everybody together. I should have said, look, this is administrative leave. It's not the same thing as a termination. It's just giving us, the agency, the time to figure out what's going on and how this happened and how we can prevent this from happening again in the future. So that was a lesson learned for me. And again, I don't believe in mistakes, but I do think that all of us have lessons like that we can learn throughout our career. So now I'll direct your attention to the course schedule. It's a lot like our previous course schedule for EMS 505. There's going to be a combination of assignments, lectures, a good deal of reading, and importantly, discussions with one another, along with reflections on lessons learned and areas for course improvement. So with this class, I plan for about 12 hours per week, and shoot for 10 if you can. Try to be as time efficient as you can. The emphasis here is still on the learning process for each of you, as well as for your personal development as leaders. And I hope and expect that this will be a positive experience for you, and I know it will be a valuable one. In fact, the information gained here should be useful for you as individuals and as supervisors throughout your career. So I welcome you all once again, and I look forward to seeing you online.